Sunlight spilled across the quiet street like it was trying to forgive everything the night had ruined. Windscreens glinted as slow morning traffic rolled past, engines humming low and steady. A bus sighed at the corner, its brakes whispering against the stillness. Shop signs flickered awake one by one, neons soft against brick. Somewhere down the road, children laughed as they raced toward school, their voices bouncing between walls still cool with early morning shade. Lila stood at the curb waiting for the crossing light to change. She adjusted her coat as the sun hit her eyes and blinked upward, squinting against the brightness. Her trainers, worn thin at the soles, tapped in a nervous rhythm against the concrete. A quiet chant of footsteps passed behind her. The city felt awake but gentle. Her phone vibrated in her hand. Once, twice. Then continuously. She didn't need to look to know what it was. She stared at the road instead, watching a leaf skate across the asphalt in a weak gust of wind. After a moment, she unlocked the screen. Comments stacked like falling bricks. Try harder next time. You look ridiculous. I showed this to my mates, and we all laughed. Why do you even exist online? Her chest tightened just enough to steal her breath. A soft ringing filled her ears. The traffic light turned green without her noticing. Someone brushed past her shoulder. She slipped the phone into her pocket without replying and walked inside the cafe. Golden daylight poured through wide glass windows and settled across wooden tables worn smooth by years of hands and cups. Dust motes floated lazily through the air like the room was breathing slowly. The espresso machine hissed and steamed, releasing bittersweet warmth into the space. Cups clinked. A radio played quietly in the background. "Morning, love," Mrs. Grant called from behind the counter without looking up. "You're early again." Lila tied her apron. "Couldn't sleep." Mrs. Grant glanced at her properly then. "You all right?" "Yeah," Lila said too quickly. At the far corner table sat a boy about her age. His hoodie was thin, gray at the elbows. He held his coffee with both hands like he was afraid it might vanish if he let go. His trainers were worn almost through at the toes. A small flap of rubber lifting with each shift of his foot. Lila noticed because she always noticed. She reached into the pastry case and added a warm roll to his saucer when she walked it over. "You didn't order this," he said quietly, his voice careful like he didn't want to disturb the room. "Shift mistake," she replied, shrugging. "It'll go stale." He studied the roll, then her. His jaw tightened. "Thanks." Their eyes met for barely a second. No dramatic spark. No swelling music. Just two people recognizing each other's presence under gentle daylight. Outside, the street kept moving to by midday. The high street was bright and alive. Sunlight reflected off car windows in sharp flashes. Wind stirred hanging flower baskets. Doors opened and closed with small bells chiming. People flowed between shops in easy midday rhythms. Lila stepped out of the cafe on her break, breathing in fresh air warmed by rising temperature. Her phone buzzed violently this time. Her face drained of color. Someone had reposted her dance video, but not as she'd intended. The caption twisted it into mockery. The clip was slowed, zoomed, framed with laughing emojis. Strangers stitched it with sarcastic reactions. The comment section polluted itself by the second. Near the bus stop, a boy laughed at his screen. A girl beside him snorted, leaning over his shoulder. "That's her," someone whispered, not quietly enough. Heat crawled up Lila's neck. The street felt suddenly too open, too bright. Nowhere to hide. A light drizzle began tapping politely against the pavement like the sky was trying not to interrupt. She crossed the road on instinct. Behind her, a voice spoke softly. "Hey, are you all right?" It was the boy from the cafe. She didn't turn. "You shouldn't talk to me right now." "They're laughing," he said gently. "But they don't know anything about you." That one sentence cracked something inside her. She turned. The sunlight met her eyes directly this time. Her vision shimmered. "They know enough." He had no answer. Only silence. And in the brightness of midday, that silence felt impossibly loud at school. The corridors didn't echo with footsteps anymore. They echoed with whispers. Lockers slammed harder than necessary. Groups stiffened when she passed. Phones appeared in the edges of doorways like quiet weapons. She caught her reflection in a trophy case. Eyes dull. Shoulders drawn inward that eye in the courtyard under wide open sky. A small group circled her. "Say it again." A boy smirked. Lila lifted her chin. Her hands tightened at her sides in full sunlight. Posting someone without consent is wrong. Laughter broke out. Phones rose higher. Someone pushed forward just enough to trip her balance. Tears pressed against her eyes, unstoppable now. The public breaking came without spectacle. No screaming. No collapse. Just quiet dismantling beneath open sky. That evening, she didn't go straight home. Outside the cafe, the same boy sat on the bench as rain misted lightly around him. Buses hissed past. Coins clattered into a driver's palm at the stop. "I heard," he said without looking up. Lila sat beside him. "I didn't think anyone would defend me." "You defended me first," he replied. "I just gave you a pastry." He shook his head slowly. "You didn't look away." She stayed, and that small decision, made in daylight, made quietly, changed everything. The next morning arrived cruelly beautiful. Sunshine painted rooftops gold. Birds cut across the sky like nothing in the world had shifted. The air felt clean, full of promise. Online, everything had shifted. Lila stood at the glass doors of the community center, staring at her own reflection. Her name was still on the performer list inside. Someone had shared her sign-up screenshot. "Watch this train wreck live." The caption read. She pushed through the door under the weight of dozens of eyes. Inside, chairs scraped. Voices layered over one another. Phones hovered low but ready. She stepped onto the small stage on shaking legs and stood under warm spotlights. That felt harsher because the room outside them stayed bright. She didn't perform. She just stood there and then quietly walked off again. Later, inside the cafe, the boy sat across from her again. His name was Noah. "I didn't expect you to walk out," he said. "I didn't expect you to speak for me yesterday," she replied. Sunlight stretched across their table. He stirred sugar that didn't need stirring. "My dad lost everything last year. Gambling. Debts. I haven't really got a place anymore." She hadn't known. She hadn't asked. Outside, a photo of them together appeared online within minutes. The caption accused. Twisted. Implied. Performative. Kindness. Clout chasing. Fake compassion. Kindness. Itself became suspicious. 2 days later. The confrontation happened in the community center courtyard at noon. Wide open space. No shadows to hide behind. A girl stepped forward. "You built your whole identity online. Now you can't handle it turning on you." Lila didn't respond. Her throat locked. Noah stood beside her. She didn't ask to be attacked. The girl laughed. Neither did the internet. The crowd tightened. Air thickened in sunlight. Lila's knees buckled, not from fear, but from exhaustion. Tears spilled without permission. For the first time, the phones captured truth instead of cruelty. Later, alone on a park bench, sunlight drifted across old buildings as children played nearby. "I don't know who I am without it anymore," Lila whispered. Noah listened. Then he told her about the learning app he once tried to build. The investors who pulled out. The tutors who volunteered anyway. The kids who still messaged him. Sometimes because no one else helped them. "You reminded me I still mattered," he said. That was when the direction shifted, not loudly, but permanently. The first public truth didn't come from Lila. It came from a digital safety organization, then legal advocates, then from Noah. Evidence replaced accusation. Context swallowed cruelty. Old posts resurfaced, exposing the original instigators. The mob slowed. Apologies trickled in where insults used to flood, but the damage had already carved its shape. Lila stepped away from school for weeks. She stopped posting entirely. Friends drifted until only 2 remained. Noah disappeared for 3 days. Silence again became the loudest sound. When Lila returned to the park one afternoon, she saw workers across the street repainting the cafe storefront. She hadn't known anything about it. 2 weeks later, a new sign appeared. Noah's table, community coffee. She crossed without thinking. Inside, sunlight danced through clean windows. Dust motes floated again in that same gentle way. Tables had been rearranged. There were notice boards on the walls, tutoring times, safety workshops, free meal hours. Noah stood behind the counter, standing taller than she had ever seen him. "You did this." "We did," he said. The truth arrived in motion. Free tutoring in the back. Community safety talks. Meals unpaid for anyone who needed warmth. Local teachers volunteered. Lawyers ran clinics on online harassment. Students came in shy and left brighter. "You didn't save me," she said quietly. "No," he replied. You noticed me. When Lila returned to school months later, there were no cheers, just quiet respect. One girl approached her at the lockers. I was wrong, she said. Lila nodded. Forgiveness felt heavier than pride, and stronger. Now, in the final afternoon light of a long, gentle day, Lila stood outside the cafe once more. Laughter drifted from inside. People leaned in conversation. Hands passed cups back and forth. Warmth spilled through open doors. She placed her hand gently on Noah's shoulder as he stood in the doorway. The streetlight flickered on as daylight faded, not into darkness.